He's an experienced delivery lead with a demonstrated history of working in the information technology, banking domain, and services industry. He's skilled in product management and he's TOGAF certified architect, and he's well versed with analytics, Oracle database, MariaDB, microservices, REST web services, messaging, and agile methodology. He's a strong information technology professional with a Bachelor of Engineering in Information Technology. He has also recently completed his Master's in Technology in the data science stream and is looking to grow his career as a data scientist and also aspiring to work on machine learning, deep learning, models design, development, and delivery. So in today's episode, let us chat with Praveen Sahu. This is the Guiding Voice podcast series, The Guiding Voice for a Better Future. Folks, I'm here to host Navin Samala, a fellow IT professional on a mission to shape the careers and lives of millions across the globe. In every episode, we interact with industry experts or thought leaders or academicians or coaches across the globe to drive some insightful conversations that will help each one of you learn amazing stuff. Also, we share an interesting trivia or a fun fact towards the end. And you'll acquire more knowledge by tuning into the Guiding Voice per every minute than any other podcast in this space. Thank you so much for joining me today. And today we are going to discuss the topic microservices and the importance of microservices in this fast-paced, ever-changing, dynamic technology world. We are extremely pleased to have Praveen part of the Guiding Voice's journey in shaping the careers and lives of millions across the globe. Praveen, hearty welcome to TGV.
Thank you, Naveen, for giving me this opportunity. It's pleasure to be here.
All right, likewise. And pleasure to host you, Praveen. Let's get started. And probably you can start sharing your top 3 things that have helped you so far in your professional journey.
Okay, so let me start with my journey. So I started my journey from iFlex solution as a Java developer and then gradually get higher. Okay, I joined Barclays and as a platform delivery lead. I learned big data, microservices, and machine learning. Okay, I played several kind of role, just like a developer, tech lead, project manager. Okay, I learned a lot from my seniors and managers during my journey of these 17 years. Okay, so one thing I would like to share, which helped most in my career, is like passion for learning. So if you have a passion for learning, no one will stop you going ahead. So that is the first thing I would like to highlight here. Second is the awareness about technology ecosystem and networking. So if you are aware about technology ecosystem and you know how to network, how to get help, okay, this will definitely going to help you a lot in your career. Okay, as I have getting more and more friendly with my network, I am getting more and more learning advices from them, and I learn a lot from it. Second, I'll say that whoever it be, your senior, your manager, okay, they will definitely help you. So in my case also, I get a lot of guidance from my seniors and peers. You must have an appetite for learning new things that will give an edge or others. So myself has also I myself invested a lot of over this learning, just like doing MBA, getting PMP certified, TOGAF certified, machine learning degrees, Java and cloud certificate. So I would like to say passion for learning, awareness of technology ecosystem, and guidance play a major role in your success.
That's amazing. So passion for learning and then awareness, being up to date with the technology ecosystem and getting guidance from the experts. That's awesome.
Yes.
So now let's jump into the core of today's topic. Like I've been planning to do an interview on microservices. Finally, we are here talking about the microservices, and I'm glad that you joined me part of this conversation, Praveen. Can you define these microservices? Explain it to a third grader or somebody who is not aware of technology. How do you define microservices?
Okay, so in very simpler terms, microservices are modular or a small services which perform individual tasks to solve a complex business problem collectively. So basically, it's an architecture style that structures your application as a collection of services that are highly maintainable, loosely coupled, independent, simpler to deploy, and it's very simple to understand because it is modular, right? So just like other case where we have monolithic architecture, we don't have knowledge on all the technologies which is implemented there, right? So here you have a modular service, right? So it is very simpler to understand. Another thing is that it is reusable, organized in a very business capable fashion. Okay, so business people can also understand what is going behind the scene. And another thing is that we need a very small team to deploy such microservices. So microservices mostly deal with model and controller. So if I say a typical architecture of an application, it will be like model, view, and controller. So out of model, view, and controller, microservices deal mostly with model and controller. So there are various, possible tier that can come into picture, just like web tier, data tier, business tier. Okay, so out of it, data tier and business tier is the most crucial part, which is there in microservices. So each module performs a very specific task from the complex business problem segregated into smaller business problems. And that is a well-defined interfaces that you have been given, and you have to implement that interface that perform a task which is going to solve your bigger business problem. So in simpler term, I say it is a very small services that enhances your capability to write a big business problem in a very efficient way that will help you scale, that will help you go for DevOps capabilities. So in and all, I would like to say that it's a very modular service which is going to enhance your business capabilities.
So it's all about, I think it also leads to some performance improvement, and because of modularity, probably extensibility is also possible. Yeah, this seems to be exciting stuff. And now you also spoke briefly about this monolithic. That brings me to my next question. How monolithic architecture is different from this microservice architecture?
So what happens in monolithic architecture? If you say monolithic, the term defined from the the sculpture made from big rocks, right? That are known as monolithic. Okay. So what happens that all the capabilities or all the functions that are part of your application are integrated in the same integrated on the same you can say integrated in the same application package. Okay. And if I would like to compare, so I'll say that monolithic architecture have all modules integrated in one application deployed on a server, whereas microservices are multiple modular services deployed on separate servers. Okay. So monolithic, if I say monolithic, okay, it will be like there would be a single database for the entire application, and it is very difficult to scale in terms of database sizing, in terms of resource sizing, scaling, and other things. Whereas in microservice, we have multiple databases depending on the number of services. So it is kind of a single database per service, and it is very easy to scale. Other than that, one thing I would like to add here is that monolithic architecture requires a bigger team. So if you are going with a monolithic architecture, definitely you are going to need a bigger team for development, deployment, and maintenance. Okay, but in case of microservice, you need multiple small teams capable of doing deployment by themselves. Okay, and it will give capabilities to maintain easily. Okay, and therefore it require a less number of people to maintain the microservice. However, if you go to the other side of it, okay, there are few drawbacks as well, right? So of using microservices, okay. So in case of monolithic architecture, testing is not that cumbersome, but in case of microservices, testing is very difficult and need extra effort because we know that instead of one application, now we have to test a number of other different applications which are part of a single application journey. So the testing will be very difficult. Other thing I would like to here add from my experience is that monolithic architecture, there are less number of network calls. Okay, so there is a less delay. Okay, in terms of response. Okay, but in case of microservices, there are more network calls. Okay, so there are delays. Okay, and the delays are getting added as per the number of services increased. Okay, so that is the cons of the microservice. However, the communication gap is less in both. But as the microservice grows, okay, communication gap can increase, okay, depending on how many number of microservices we are going to deploy.
Excellent. I think you have very well put through about the monolithic architecture forming out of a single rock versus this one, wherein you can deploy from
Yeah.
multiple different services, different servers, and that way you can avoid some sort of dependency, and at the same time, the expandability part can be incorporated. This is great. And now this brings me to my next question. So there has been a lot of buzz about service-oriented architecture, wherein web services were so popular, right? And nowadays, with the introduction of these microservices and all, of late we are not coming across the service-oriented architecture and all. And probably you can shed some light around what is the difference between web services and service-oriented web services and microservices, right? And what are the advantages of microservices over the regular SOA?
Service oriented architecture is the basic journey where we all started. Okay, so service oriented architecture uses enterprise service bus. Okay, so that is kind of tedious process to implement and connect all these service buses. Okay, so microservice and web services come to rescue for service-oriented architecture. Both microservice and web service are used for building application architecture. Okay. The difference between microservice and web service lies in the concept. Okay. So what we call microservice and what we call a web service. Okay. So web service is nothing but a strategy or a resource. Okay, to make the services of one application available to the other application via some web interfaces. Okay, so there may be some web interfaces which are going to consume your web services, whereas microservices is a independent autonomous application that performs a very specific task for a larger application architecture. And also, if I say microservices is kind of architecture, SOA architecture only, where it is loosely coupled, independent, and highly scalable. Whereas web services are architecture, okay, where applications comprise of different kind of web services, just like REST web service, SOAP web service, okay, and they are only used to give some connectivity between two different applications. Both have some similarities as well. There are few differences that make microservices give an upper hand on web service due to scalability and maintainability.
Yeah, that's nice, Praveen. And now let me move on to my next question. In general, like now that we have seen the evolution right from remote procedure calls and then SOA and then microservices. So highlighting about microservices importance in today's days, are they going to benefit to the business? If so, what are the benefits for the business in terms of implementing microservices?
So what happens? Okay, business are more worried about the timelines. Okay, first thing. Second, business is worried about resilience and the high availability. Okay. Also, business have a risk of reputation damage if your service is not available. Okay. So, what microservice did to it, right? How it is going to improve these issues which business have, right? So, microservice gives a platform to offer the agility. Okay, to develop business functionality so that business can build and deliver newer and more frequent product and function and features. Okay, if you say time to market, it is faster time to market. Okay, so since it is modular, okay, the microservices are reusable, simpler to build, simpler to deploy. So a lot of planning is not required for development and deployment of microservices, though it requires a minimum level of planning and action by the business, but a minimum level is required. Each microservice can be deployed independently. Okay, therefore, business component can be prototyped. Okay, and can be produced more quickly. It reduces the risk of outages. Just like if I deploy a microservice on a cloud, okay, because microservice supports containerization, okay, and with the coming of DevOps in picture, now my microservices are available 24 cross 7. Due to the DevOps blue-green deployment, okay, it is available all the time. So if I want to deploy something, I don't have to down my service, right? So there is no downtime required. And also, if there is no downtime required, your system is highly available, right? And at the same time, with the coming of DevOps and cloud services, okay, we have a simpler load balancing happening in our web services that makes it high resilience and better fault tolerant system. Okay. Also, I would like to add one thing here. It reduces the infra cost and the usage cost. Suppose you want to use your services 24 cross 7, but there is a peak hour, okay, during, say, 3 to 4, okay, daily, right? So, what you will do? You want that the resources must be available and it should not break, right? So, you want to scale up, right? If you want to scale up, okay, you should have some kind of system which support the auto scaling functionality, which support the containerization. So microservice do all these kind of things, and that's why it is preferable by business in today's scenario as well.
Mhm. So it's more about faster time to market, easy deployment. I see that benefits and all. And when it comes to the actual implementation, what are some technologies that go well with microservices implementation? And I'll tell you my experience. Like right now I've moved to the process and strategy side. But when I was a developer way back, we've implemented web services, okay, for integrating Java based web application with Siebel CRM system and all. And I remember writing this WSDL based files and also certain web services to invoke the content, and wherein we triggered the request saying that the account number is sent and account number is validated that the Siebel said, and we get a response back. And similarly, if there is a service request that is created, we get the details. Okay, so likewise, I implemented some basics of this web services a while ago, and that is purely in the Java world. But in general, when it comes to this microservices implementation, what are certain technologies that are supporting microservices implementation?
So microservice basically, as I said, it's an architectural style. Okay. So a lot of languages supported: Java, Python, Golang, .NET, C++, Node.js. Okay. And also with the advent of Docker and Kubernetes, it is a lot more easier nowadays. So if I say the Spring Boot, okay, so Spring Boot has made developers' life very simple. Giving the template for writing your microservices. Okay. Also, technologies like Prometheus, ELF, REST. These all are adding to grow our microservice in such a way that it's usable by all technologies. So there is no technological limitation for microservices. It is available in mostly all languages. Developer used to write a application. I would like to share one PPT where I can show how microservices are getting implemented over monolithic services.
Sure, that would be great. Yeah.
Okay, so if I say what is a monolithic architecture, okay, it's a simple model view controller with having business logic incorporated in the same application. And if you see here, right, we have a single database, right? So when a client comes, okay, it has a single interface that will serve all the requests, whether it's a login request, whether it's a fund transfer request, whether it's a debit card transaction, anything, right? So it will have a single application. Okay. But whereas if I compare that to our microservices, in microservices we have one customer facing application, and then we have a one central controller or aggregator. Okay. So what this central controller or aggregator do? Okay. So this gives the way to API gateway. That is one of the design pattern used in microservices. So here we have a gateway which serve all the purpose. But here you can see, right, we have a different microservices defined. So this central controller is basically responsible for orchestrating all the requests based on some input parameters to the different microservices. Whereas all microservices also have a capability to talk with each other. Okay, so our controller is talking to microservice, and microservice is also talking to other microservices. So this is one of the simplest architecture I can thought of. Another thing is that if I take an example of online fund transfer, right? Just like NEFT. Okay, so what user has to do? So user has to log in. User has to get his account information ready, right? User has to get the pay information. User has to get a debit module. User has to have a transfer module. Okay, and then OTP and verification. So this is all the part of your wider journey, right? So if we segregate this thing into microservices, it will be very easier to maintain. Okay, so what will happen if we put this application into our microservice architecture? Okay, then there will be a central controller that will do the orchestration. Okay, so when a customer comes, he will log in, right? So while login, he will call the login microservice. While he want to do some fund transfer, okay, so he will call the fund transfer microservice at the back of the central controller, right? And if he want to get the list of pay, so pay microservices are there. So when he hit the pay information, the pay microservices is hit at that point of time. So it is on the go. So nothing is kind of stored, right? So it is on the go, and it is very real time. If I say it is a very, very real time application. So once he get the pay information, he will add the amount. Okay. So once he adds the amount, he will going further to get the OTP generation and the verification. Once it's verified, the account is debited, and there are various other functionalities which can be shown. So as I said, it paves the way for the API gateway. So if there is this central controller, right? So it gives a design pattern for our API gateway, and this is one of the useful or successfully implemented design patterns in microservices.
Excellent. And I love the banking
Yeah.
example,
Thanks
right?
a lot,
Because,
Naveen.
yeah, I think it also supports a concept of graceful degradation, right? When one of the
Yeah.
services is down, rest of them can be up and all, right?
Yes. Yes.
Gives a lot of flexibility to the end user. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what happens if some services are down, right? And that are not most important services. Okay.
Hmm.
Just like if I say, if you are purchasing something on e-commerce website, right? So e-commerce website has number of web services, right? Just like some information on the product list, right? So if product list can be get at runtime, it's well and good. But if product list cannot be get at runtime, then the application should not fail, right? So what happens when a customer goes to the e-commerce website and tries to get the list of product, okay, by searching that product name, okay, and you do not have that API up, right, up and running. So what will there? There is one circuit breaker concept in the microservice, okay, that will come to rescue, and it gives the way how your application should behave if there is, if the service is not available. It do not, it goes to the down services every time. It stores some part of it, just like caching, okay, and it gives the product list from that caching, and you will never know that what has happened behind it fails or it succeeds, right? So yeah, it's a very good thing for any e-commerce developer, okay, which uses this microservices that will let the application succeed instead of failure if some services are down.
Yeah, great. And now let's talk about the importance of microservices in the era where cloud computing and machine learning are taking the precedence. And are they going to complement each other, or what is the correlation among these three aspects?
So, if I say machine learning and cloud computing, right? So both have given a kind of support to microservices. What happens due to the advent of cloud technologies? Okay, scaling and maintaining application becomes very easy. Okay, you can get resources on the go. Okay, suppose during the peak hours you need more resources, right? So with cloud technologies, yes, you can auto scale your application, and you will on the go, you will get the resources available. You don't have to do manual scaling, right? So these technologies are going to improve the implementation and the uses of microservices. Okay, why? Because microservice supports the containerization, and due to which it is preferred over monolithic services. Okay, and due to it, it is highly scalable, highly available. Also, due to the growing machine learning need at the time of the hour, right? So what happens? Machine learning helps to accelerate the growth of high-end compute capabilities. Just like we have heard about CPUs and GPUs, right? So there are now TPUs also for tensor processing unit, and GPU is just like graphic processing units, right? So these are going to add the growth of high-end compute capabilities. If I say my microservice is taking a long time due to the resource, okay, so that is not the limitation now, right? Because we have high-end compute capabilities, okay, that is going to help the microservice architecture best suit for this kind of ecosystem where cloud and machine learning systems are needed. And it paves the way to growth, paves the way for the growth and the use of these technologies at real time and implementing in a faster way. So yeah, it is going to give edge over other technologies or other services because it gives you the result at the real time.
Wonderful. So there is a lot of bright future, as well as I would say it is a trend of microservices at this moment, if I may refer to. And now let's assume somebody is really motivated to get into this microservices and find some roles and all. So what are certain resources that you would like to recommend them so that they get well versed with microservices and take a plunge into it?
So first of all, today's is a digital world, right? And we have a lot of information available freely over different websites, blogs, YouTube videos. There are very few learning sites which are good, just like Udemy, Idionix, and other kind of resources. But they are paid resources. There are also few resources which are coming in your way. Just like we have one NPTEL site by the Indian government, which are mostly run by the IITs. That gives you the free resources. Okay, you can enroll into the course. It is a free, and you will get something out of it. But one thing I would like to add here: watching videos, okay, writing blogs, reading blogs, going to website doesn't make any help if you're not going to learn by your own. Okay, so I always prefer to get my hands dirty. Okay, if I want to learn something, so I suggest that be it anything, be it any blog, be it any YouTube video or anything. Okay, just try to listen, try to see, and then try to implement by your own. If you are not going to implement by your own, you will never be going to learn anything out of it. I'll suggest to get your hands dirty, and you will definitely learn something.
Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I'll share something, some links that is really helpful. Okay,
Yeah.
that will help all our participants, right? So I'll share those links.
Yeah, definitely. So, all the listeners and the viewers, please look into the show notes. You'll already see the links that are shared by Praveen. And yeah, Praveen, I think this has been a fabulous conversation so far. But we have been talking a lot about hardcore technology, SOA, and then microservices, machine learning, and all other stuff. Now it's the time for us to lighten up the mood of our audience. So, if
Yeah.
you're okay, I'm going to kick off a quick rapid fire round where I'm going to ask you a few funny questions wherein you can crisply answer them in a word or two. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Wonderful. So let me fire the first bullet, Praveen. What has been your childhood fantasy?
Okay. I was always fascinated with being a superhero and save the life of others. Okay. I read many, superhero books, right? So that is my childhood fantasy. But in reality, if you say, okay, I would also love to be an astronomer roaming around planet to planet. So that was my dream.
Oh, wow. But I don't know if it roaming around planet to planet will be possible in our lifetime, but at least you can try space
Yeah.
tourism. That is
Yeah.
possible in our generation. All right. Now, tell me about your favorite programming language.
So both Java and Python is my favorite. If I say Java is my soul, my heart, I'll say Python is my mind. Okay, so I'll say both Java and Python.
Interesting. And now tell me about yourself in one word.
I'm a very enthusiastic learner. Okay, I always look for learning new technologies which help change the future of the world. So I'm an enthusiast learner.
Okay, great. And now tell me about one thing which you'd like to change in your past.
Okay, so in my past, I have done many mistakes, but I would like to change one thing where I can say that if I have to define my priorities, I would like to change how I define my priorities along with my time management scale, so that in this way I will get more time to learn. So that is one thing I would like to change in the past.
You can definitely do that and wish you all the very best.
Yes.
Now, let me fire the last bullet. What is one electronic gadget that you like to see or invent yourself, Praveen?
I would like to see a gadget which will, tell you how many calories you are burning during a particular learning. Okay, this will give you a benefit that if some person who's a fitness freak and don't want to learn, okay, it will motivate that person, okay, to learn something new, read something new. So if some gadget will come which will show how many calories burn while doing particular kind of learning.
Wow. Simply fabulous and another great startup idea to our audience. Wonderful.
Yeah.
So that was a energetic rapid fire. And with that, before I let you go, I would like to ask you one final question, okay, for this conversation, because I would like to invite you again in future. So what will be your one piece of advice to those aspiring to make big in their careers?
So what I say, learning mindset is a must to succeed. I'll emphasize this word, learning mindset. Okay. So if you are learning something, but you are not getting out of it, right? Then it is not going to help you. So learning mindset is must to succeed. Okay. I would like to add few more points here. Just like everyone knows, right? There is no shortcut to success, right? So hard work is the only way to get it on the right track. So I'll say keep learning mindset, keep your goals and concept very, very clear. Okay. Be firm on what you are doing and be adaptive. Okay. So if something is changing in the world, okay, you have to be adaptive. Okay. So if you take care of this kind of thing, definitely you will be succeed in all your endeavors you are doing, right? And also don't keep yourself restricted for doing anything. You can do anything. You have a lot of capabilities. So judge your own capabilities, and no one can judge you better than yourself. So judge your own capabilities and have a learning mindset.
Wow. Simply wow. Those are really great nuggets of wisdom. And thank you so much, Praveen. It was a fantastic conversation and thoroughly enjoyed every bit of it. And thank you so much for being part of the
Yeah.
Guiding Voice journey in shaping the careers and lives of millions across the globe. And on that note, I would also like to thank Anand Gaud for connecting us.
Yes. Anand is the key point here. So I thank you, Naveen, for giving me this opportunity and talking and having a nice conversation with you. Thanks a lot to you and the Guiding Voice team.
Awesome. Likewise, I thoroughly enjoyed every bit of it and pleasure hosting you, Praveen. All right. So, folks, before we move into the trivia section, here is a small request to you. In case if you haven't subscribed to us, please subscribe from the app where you have tuned in from so that you'll be notified about all the future episodes. And also, if you loved this episode and found it useful, request you to share with at least 3 of your friends or colleagues who can benefit from the Guiding Voice content, so that your friends will learn new stuff like you and we will gain a few new set of subscribers. Thank you so much in advance. Now, let's hop into the trivia segment of today's episode. Folks, today we spoke a lot about microservices, and I would like to add my 2 cents about microservices. So people are under the assumption that REST is the only way to implement microservices, because REST, which stands for representational state transfer, has become synonymous with microservices, much like containers have. And RESTful APIs are used by microservices to communicate so that they operate as a single service. And with client-side applications, REST is an accessible and low maintenance technology because it lets the microservices talk over HTTP without additional infrastructure. However, while REST is closely associated with microservices, it is simply one of the several techniques, which means microservices can also use RPC, JSON, gRPC, asynchronous messaging, and function as a service, right? So that's all for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. And in case if you have any guest recommendations on hardcore technology topics, send us a note on theguidingvoiceforyou@gmail.com. Thanks in advance. And folks, this is your host Naveen, a fellow IT professional and a passionate learner on a mission to make a difference in the lives and careers of millions across the globe. Until next time, bye-bye. See you soon.